Hello everyone. In my previous video, I said that I wanted to make a full video about Elden Ring in which I will critically this game. But before that, I will use a Howl Shield and say that all I will say are just my subjective thoughts about this game. And I hope you realize that and you will like this video and don't lose your mind. Okay, let's begin. The first thing I want to talk about is open world. This world without a doubt visually is very beautiful and has some amazing views, but there is a small problem about that. Most of the time you just ride your horse and try hard in order to find the content. Yeah, I know that usually open world game is a horse riding simulation, and I know that this is a problem for all open world games, but still. Half of this open world is full of swamp areas, huge mountains, and is full of the same dungeons, but with different rewards and mini bosses or bosses, call them whatever you like. And I want to show you one very funny thing. Humans are a very strange creations. If you show them something like this, they will scream, shit game, But if you show them something like this, they will scream, oh my god, yes, what a masterpiece, 10 out of 10 game. Despite the fact that 90% of the time they use YouTube tutorials in order to find a right way or to at least find any key item. I will ask you one question and I want you to answer it without lies. How many of you found a road to Malenia without tutorials? No. How many of you find all bell bearings for smithing stones? No. I have a better one. How many of you managed on your own found a key to the main gates of Raya Lucaria? You might say, well, the same thing was before Elden Ring. You didn't have a map and you on your own had to find a right path. Yes, you are absolutely correct. But you know what's the difference? Elden Ring is a huge open world game. Meanwhile, Dark Souls games are plus minus straightforward and you always knew, well, okay, almost always knew where you had to go. In my opinion, the best game is Dark Souls 3 when it comes to find a right path. Yes, there was no map, but for example, I, without YouTube tutorials, found a way to both Champion Gandir and Nameless King because they're obvious if you think for a second. But in Elden Ring, it's easier to find a treasure in your ass than to find the right path. Also, in this game we have ability to craft items and, unironically, what you crafted in this game? Personally, I only crafted golden and silver chicken legs and that's it. So again, why is crafting added in this game, can you remind me? Oh yes, also in this game we have NPC quests and how many of you did at least one quest without YouTube tutorials? At least one. For example, in Dark Souls games, I on my own managed to do Solar, Lucatiel, Sigward and Goreira's quests. But in Elden Ring, not even a chance. Yeah, I got lucky in Dark Souls games a few times, but still. By the way, about the quests, I and probably many people thought that George Martin would be the one who will do all these quests. But the only quest I can connect to him is quest of list 3 NPC. And by the way, does someone knows what he did besides this quest? The only thing I can connect to him is this sword for very obvious reasons. Did he unironically sit on a couch all day and was smoking bamboo with Hidetaka while their workers did all the job? And actually I think that it's true because the lore and plot of Elden Rings look like this.
I have a pen, I have an apple, apple pen.
No, I am not joking, I swear. It's just Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V of Dark Souls 1 and 2, but with a small changes. The more you think of it, the more you realize about that. Just watch opening cinematic from Dark Souls 1 and then compare it to Elden Ring. And also don't forget about the war against giants from Dark Souls 2. The second thing I dislike about this game are weapons. For this playthrough, I purposely started the game with a knight because I wanted to test is it possible to fully beat this game with my Dark Souls style playthrough. For me it's middleweight armor, middle or huge shield and a fast straight sword. But very quickly I realized that shield does almost nothing in this game and I just changed my shield with another straight sword. In the beginning I even liked this build, but then after I killed Morgoth, I realized that this build sucks ass. Not only bosses after Morgoth are extremely tanky, but they also are very fast and do an unreasonable amount of damage. And because of that, your only way to kill late game boss is will Bloodloss or will Ashe of War. Like I said in a previous video against Elden Beast, I and my allies were simply out of mana, and because of that we were unable to do any damage because we couldn't spam our Ashes of War. I know many people laugh at people who use Rivers of Blood or Bloodlust Katana, but what other choice do they have? You either die to the same boss over and over because you do unreasonably low amount of damage, or you take katanas on freeze and build and do a percent max health damage. And because of that, I at some point had a question. Why should I even max my strength and dex when I can max my health and mana and just spam my OP Ashe of War? Because unless you have ultra great sword that does a huge damage, you simply won't be able to kill late game bosses solo. I want you to remember this moment. Yeah, I could use ultra great sword just like Dark Souls 2, but they are just way too slow and don't do enough damage to make it worthy. Half of the time while you are in hit animation, the boss will remove half of your health, if not more. Don't believe me? Sure, I will show you one video. In this video, as you can clearly see, with my Ashe of War, I am doing almost 1k damage, and also it can micro stun her, and without Ashe of War, I, with both my swords, did less damage than with this Ashe of War, and sometimes because of her mobility, I even missed my hits. Yes, I forgot to record it, but you can see my damage to Astel, and I had the same weapons, and it was the same level, and I will ask the same question once again. Why should I hit bosses with basic attacks when I can spam my OP Ashes of War that not only do more damage but can also stun bosses and even poise break them? And no, dear viewer, it's not just like Dark Souls 3. Yeah, in Dark Souls 3 there also were Ashes of War, but they were more like cool bonuses for weapons, and you could damage bosses even without Ashes of War. But in Elden Ring, your only damage source is Ashe of War, which just sucks. Again, don't believe me? Sure, fight Radagon with straight swords without Ashes of War, and then fight him with these two weapons that has super OP Ashes of War. No matter what weapon you will use, first or second, just one of them. And after that, tell me which method is better, faster and more effective, especially if you give this weapon to Mimic tier. Now let's talk about bosses. In this game we have over 200 bosses, and if you fought someone less than 3 times, it's already a huge win for this boss, because either you beat them for the 5th time, or at some point they will be a basic mobs in the next fucking location. Many people defend this and they have 3 main arguments. First is that they are not a real bosses and call them mini bosses. And no, dear fanboys, this is not a mini boss. This is mini boss, or this, but not this. Secondly, all of these bosses are optional. I will disagree with that, but not entirely. First of all, you have to beat a few mobs in order to get a few OP weapons and bell bearings that allows you to max your summons and weapons. But for this playthrough, I did White Mask questline and killed this chicken over and over. And because of that, I always was a good level or over level sometimes. But there is a small problem with that. First of all, we have to accept the fact that it's just abuse of mechanic, which doesn't really feel fair. But in the other hand, mid-game bosses give you the same or even less money than this chicken, and you have 2 options. Either wait 5 to 10 minutes and fully clear a dungeon with shit tier boss that will give you around 50k soul, or shoot this chicken for 10 minutes straight and make the same money but 10 times faster. And lastly, let's say that so was that they're repeating themselves. So as in Dark Souls. Yes, but in this game there are more repetitive bosses than in all previous games combined. Someone even said that yeah, because this game is bigger than all 3 Dark Souls games combined. And yes, this game is bigger than all 3 Dark Souls games, but why is it so big? Just to repeat the same punchback mobs over and over? If yes, then bravo. Okay. Fuck it, let's consider them as mini bosses. You know how many unique bosses are in this game? Actually, let's count them all. Renala, Radan, Richard, Placidusax, Malenia, Fire Giant, Radagon, and the Elden Beast. And that's it. And no, I won't consider Sir Gideon as boss because should I really explain why? And no, dear viewers, Godfrey, Mog, and Malekith are not the unique bosses. Godfrey's first phase is literally before Morgoth, Mog is in Land of Savage under Leyndell, and don't say that he's just an Morgoth's illusion and can be explained by lore. I don't give a fuck! That's just lazy. And finally, Malekith can be found in one of Kylie's towers. And yes, if sounding new, they are the same person. On my first playthrough, I found a bunch of death roots and give it to him. And after reset, he started to attack me. I got wrecked and summoned my summon, and when he fell on the ground, I didn't stop because how was I even supposed to know that he stopped attacking me? I just thought that I poise broke him and beated him until he died. So in total, from 238 bosses, we have only 8 unique bosses. 7 if you combine Radagon and Elden Beast. Just wow, I don't even know what to say. Okay, let's talk about all Remembrance bosses in this game. In total we have 15 Remembrance bosses, and how many of you can safely say that they are fun to fight? Personally, I don't give a fuck if boss is a hard or no, okay? For example, Abyss Watchers in Dark Souls 3 are super easy, and even I, on my own, well, almost on my own, managed to beat them on my first try. But I absolutely love this fight so much, it's such a fun and interesting boss fight, despite the fact that they are super easy. And in other hand, we have bosses like Ancient Dragon, which is hard, but a hard boss done wrong. You want examples of a hard boss done right? Sure, Reime, Nameless King, Midir, maybe Genichiro. Each of them whooped my ass many times, but I still think that they are balanced and fair bosses. But in Elden Ring, almost all Remembrance's bosses are ancient dragons. Okay, I will remove from this list Morgoth, Renala, Godric, and Radan. Important moment, before Radan nerfs, because while being easy, they are still fun to fight. Also, I will remove Regal Ancestor and Astel because they are both boring and easy. Now let's talk about other bosses. Each of these assholes have one outplay button which they will spam almost non-stop. For example, Richard, Fireballs, Mog, Nihil and his damn bloody slashes. Placidusax, Radagon, Elden Beast, and Fire Giants have so many dumb moves, I don't know which to say as an example. Godfrey, his shockwave bomb, Malekith, his wombo combo when he jumps on pillars, and after that he immediately does Ishin wind slashes. And finally Malenia, a boss that is so helpless it's not even funny, but she has one outplay button that will kill you 90% of time, and unless you are a huge nerd and study her safe zones, you have almost no chance to survive that. Like imagine if Soldier of Godric had a nuke, would you call him a good and fun boss? I really don't think so. Also, I forgot to say one important thing. Many people laugh at people who use Mimic Tear or other summons and call them by many good words. But sorry, what I and many others should do. Play solo against bosses that attack almost non-stop, and at any moment of this fight they can full HP one-shot me, despite the fact that I had 2.2k health. Just so you know, with this amount of health, you can phase tank phase 2 Midir's laser without any problem. And because of that, many people use summons, not because they are bad at this game. They use summons because they want someone to tank bosses outplay buttons safely, so they can do the damage with their OP Ashes of War. If I didn't use Mimic Tear against Malekith or Godfrey, and fought them as I fought Morgoth, I would be stuck on them because I would get one shot by the same move over and over, but because I had Mimic Tear, we poise broke them many times and could tank hits for each other. Okay, let's have a conclusion. Is Elden Ring a bad game? No, it's not a bad game. It's definitely better than Sekiro and Demon's Souls. But this game is nowhere close to Bloodborne and especially to any Dark Souls games. You might say, if this game is so bad, then why it has such a high score? The answer to that is very simple. People just missed games in which you are not just sitting on your chair and watching cutscenes more time than playing the game itself. People just saw okay game after so many bad and shit tier list games and started to praise it in order to receive more at least okay games that are not full of woke garbage and that actually is enjoyable to play. I promise you, if this game was made in 2K16, it wouldn't be able to have such a high score and wouldn't be able to win a Game of the Year reward. But in 2022, it won, but not because Elden Ring is a 10 out of 10 game, but because it simply had no competitors, because its biggest competitors were Horizon Forbidden West that just sucked ass and God of Sleep, which is so boring that it might make you fall asleep. Anyway, with this I say bye bye to you and I see you next time.